All right, happy Friday and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for October 18th, 2024, the third of 4 Fridays this month. 2 weeks from today will be November 1st, believe it or not. And today is Ride Your Bicycle to Work Day. The weather almost all over the country is perfect for riding your bike. And on the food calendar, it's hashtag National Mashed Potato Day. It's also Celebrate a Dead Terrorist Leader Friday. Okay, I made that up, but the world is happily acknowledging the death of known Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in Gaza. President Biden's in Germany today. The vice president and former President Trump both have campaign events in Michigan. I'll get to all of that in a bit and some must-hear comments from Trump at last night's Al Smith dinner in New York. But first, Hamas today has confirmed that its leader was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza, and Hezbollah now vows a new phase of the war with Israel.
Major breaking story today, and it is the confirmed death of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, the mastermind of the October 7th atrocities in Israel. Yahya Sinwar confirmed dead by the IDF, and they used DNA. Obviously, this is bittersweet for some of the hostages' families. But again, the IDF with a major success on its hands today, another terrorist leader no longer on this globe. Let's bring in now our expert panel, retired Brigadier General, formerly of the U.S. Air Force and former U.S. Deputy Military Rep to NATO, Blaine Holt, an attorney and former Naval Intelligence Officer, overseer at Stanford's Hoover Institute, John Jordan. Guys, it's great to have you with us.
Good to be here.
They've taken out a lot of folks. Nasrallah, recently Hezbollah, Yahya Sinwar. John, did you think we would ever see this day?
After they got Nasrallah, I thought this was certainly possible. Before that, I didn't. This could be characterized as unprecedented. This is sending a big message throughout the region. And I think this is one of the reasons Israel has been quiet on the Iranian front, because they've been focused on dealing with this. And now I think the Iranians are getting even more nervous, because now so many of these top leaders that have hitherto been seen as off limits or difficult targets have been gotten. And now Israel is focused on Iran and the Iranian attack on Israel. So let General Holt take it away from there.
Yeah, it is unprecedented. And as Zach Anders was just detailing, Blaine, one of the IDF soldiers hadn't even been in uniform during October the 7th. Why was Yahya Sinwar above ground? I guess they were pretty confident and maybe not thinking that this could ever come to pass.
This is just an incredible series of events, tragic events if you're Yahya Sinwar. Yeah. So, yes, they have been targeting him. And yes, if they could have taken an assassination's bullet to his head, they would have done that. It's not likely that's what happened here. In fact, there's sources in Israel right now reporting that Sinwar may well have been breaking ground and making a run for it with a bunch of money and trying to get the heck out. The mortar fired by the Israeli soldier wasn't aimed at a high-value target. It was aimed at terrorists as they were trying to move in to see if they couldn't find locations of hostages. And then when they gathered around him, they started looking at those freaky teeth that only Yahya Sinwar has, and they said, I think we got the big one here. Mm-hmm. And they immediately got that body for the DNA testing to make the confirmations. Probably not going to be such welcome news if you're Matt Miller at the State Department, who is just stomping up and down saying nobody's looking after the Palestinians with the aid. But if you are Palestinians, with Yahya Sinwar gone, you've got a much better chance of getting that aid.
That's retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt and former Naval Intelligence Officer John Jordan on Newsline with Bianca De La Garza. The breaking news was followed by an address to the nation by Vice President Kamala Harris, which is a bit unusual, maybe even more than a bit unusual for the vice president to make that announcement. But President Biden was either on his way to Germany or had just arrived in Germany.
This moment gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza. And it must end such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. To any terrorist who kills Americans, threatens the American people, or threatens our troops or our interests. Know this, we will always bring you to justice.
The transformation is just astonishing. And at least she didn't say, don't. More from Newsmax host Katrina Zish and former Georgia Congressman and attorney Doug Collins.
Out of the gate, we just heard very brief remarks from Kamala Harris. What struck me first is I thought, hey, you don't have the job yet. Where's President Biden?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing everything they possibly can to show her in a presidential light. And the sad part about it is it's all words. I mean, we've heard this from this administration all the time about how they support and how Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has the right to wipe out terrorists. Israel has the right to take out those people who have been killing and shooting mortars and bombs over them for the last number of years. And October 7th last year just pushed them over the edge. And I think this is a good day for those who have been fighting terrorism, and maybe a great day for those who have been under the thumb of terrorists like Sinwar. This is what needs to have happened when people do things that they shouldn't be doing, and it's in the taking out. This is a good thing. But for what she said, it's still amazing because behind the scenes and working behind the scenes, she says stuff differently to other people. It sounded rather hollow coming from the vice president.
Well, we just got a report from Zach Anders who said, that their administration told them specifically, do not go into Rafah. Look who they found hiding in Rafah. They found Yahya Sinwar and they killed him. So, and now she's coming out there. And by the way, if President Kamala Harris were to be that, there's your first little taste of it there at the podium, making a big speech that a terrorist is dead, taking credit for it and saying, okay, we did it. We got him. We can move on. The war can end here. Specifically, though, she was telling them not to do just what they did. Seems kind of ironic to me, Senator.
No, I think that's very well stated, Bob. The reality is that Israel is moving forward, doing what they need to do to protect themselves, even though the administration has told them not to do any of these things. And then you're right, stand up and take credit for it. But she really didn't do that. She talked about Gaza, and that's fine. She talked about Hamas and ending the war. But the war isn't just in Gaza. There's a war going on with Hezbollah in the north and Iran. It's all a war against Iran. And Iran's war against Israel and these groups. And to isolate that, again, shows a lack. I don't know if it's a lack of understanding, but it's just a purely political statement. She had to make a statement, and she made it in a way that didn't offend some of her folks on her left and the radical Muslim community that's here, and particularly in Michigan. It was a purely political statement, provided no leadership, no vision, no plan, no nothing, other than congratulating the Israelis for doing something that she told them not to do.
That's Senator Rick Santorum on American Agenda with Katrina Zish and Bob Brooks. The vice president, in her comments, called it an end to the war, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today is promising more war, putting an end to any hopes of peace after the Hamas leader was killed. And going back to President Biden, who I mentioned was in Germany today, where he had closed-door meetings with European allies about the war in the Middle East and Ukraine, and was presented with Germany's highest honor, the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic, which has only been given, believe it or not, to one other U.S. president.
This award means so much to me for what it says about us. The journey we've taken, the alliance we've strengthened.
George H.W. Bush, the only other U.S. president to have received that award from Germany. The vice president, the Democrats' nominee for president, Kamala Harris, campaigned in Wisconsin yesterday. She has an event in Grand Rapids, Michigan today. Former President Donald Trump has a rally in Detroit tonight after speaking at the annual Al Smith dinner in New York City last night.
Tradition holds that I'm supposed to tell a few self-deprecating jokes this evening. So here it goes. Nope. I've got nothing. There's nothing to say. I guess I just don't see the point of taking shots at myself when other people have been shooting at me for a hell of a long time and they shoot hard.
Vice President Harris did not attend the Catholic charity event, which Trump said was disrespectful, and another reason that Catholics should vote for him.
The last Democrat not to attend this important event was Walter Mondale, and it did not go very well for him.
Vice President Harris instead delivered a video message. More from Newsmax host Joe Pinion.
Is he trying to dodge getting roasted by the Donald? Well, back in 2016, Hillary Clinton wasn't afraid of a little roast session herself. Take a listen.
With all of the heated back and forth between my opponent and me at the debate last night, we have proven that we can actually be civil to each other. In fact, just before taking the dais, Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me."
Yep, that's how it's supposed to go, folks. But not with Kamala, because like a lump of coal underneath the tree on Christmas, Democrats found themselves trapped in the lyrics of that old Cilla Black song. Because, surprise, surprise, turns out it wasn't a storm or a strike or a war that was going to sink the Democrats on Election Day in November. Turns out the October surprise they feared ended up being their very own hand-picked candidate for president, Kamikaze Kamala herself. You see, after months of teleprompters and scripted interviews while being propped up by the left-stream media, the real Kamala Harris finally popped up like a terrifying jack-in-the-box on a time delay. She went on 60 Minutes and appeared not to understand the difference between a tax credit and a tax deduction. She went on The View and said she could not think of a single thing she would have done differently in the last 3 years than Joe Biden. And then went on and did a break glass in case of emergency interview with Charlemagne the false god in an effort to court the black vote, and told him that she would not be a continuation of the Biden presidency, as if both statements could somehow be true. And so after months of soaring high in the sky on pre-scripted tough talk written for her by an army of ghostwriters, amplified on her behalf by an army of influencers, paid big bucks to say really nice things about her, well, the legend of Kamala Harris finally got a little too close to the sun. And just like the story of Icarus in Greek mythology, those wings, they started to melt. And now she's dropping like a rock for the whole world to see. And so it is only right that the day after Kamala Harris tried to tell Bret Baier that the Democrats are a freedom-loving people, that all roads lead to the famed Al Smith dinner, the world-famous white tie affair held by the Catholic Archdiocese of New York, an annual gathering where faith and politics collide, the intersection of church and state. And so, of course, we should not be surprised that after losing track of her accents from one state to the next, the nominee for the Democratic Party that loves to say they are taking back freedom and faith from the Republicans, well, they decided it wasn't even safe for her to enter a room filled with people who believe in God, lest she be forced to acknowledge that her policies barely respect religion or freedom, let alone freedom and religion combined.
That is Joe Pinion, who was only getting started. He went on to break down some of Kamala's anti-religion policies.
This is a woman who, as Attorney General in California, signed an amicus brief in 2014 in support of trying to force the Hobby Lobby to buy contraception for their employees, violating their religious freedoms. This is a woman who, as Attorney General, sponsored the Reproductive Fact Act, a harmlessly worded bill that did a great deal of harm for those pro-life Californians running pregnancy centers to advise within the walls of their centers that free abortions were just around the corner. This is a woman who, as a United States Senator, was the sponsor of the Do No Harm Act. Put it another way, folks, Kamala Harris literally wrote the bill to try and kill the Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993. And so at this moment, there are only a few things protecting people who believe in religious freedom from Kamala Harris: Donald J. Trump, and the Supreme Court. The same Supreme Court, by the way, that Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and Chuck Schumer want to decimate by simply packing it to the high hilt. And so we'll hear from President Trump at the Al Smith dinner talking about freedom, talking about faith, talking about freedom of religion. And we're going to get a video from Kamala telling jokes on tape to a room full of people she fully expects to vote for her, even though she literally hates everything that they represent. A belief in a higher power than her very own unhinged Democratic Party.
Very, very powerful stuff from Joe Pinion, as always. Beyond the smoke and mirrors, after the dust settles, those are the facts. Yet millions of people still cannot let the facts stand in their way. And let's wrap it up with Rob Finnerty, who by complete coincidence is going to finish out the week the way that I started it on the Newsmax Daily back on Monday.
But Kamala, what happened to all the joy that we've been hearing so much about over the last 3 months? All of the joy, all of the vibes. What happened to all that? I was about to buy one of those Choose Joy yard signs for my front lawn. Kamala, I choose joy. What happened?
This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump is, not to mention how Donald Trump has
all of this money
has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers.
I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
Not a lot of joy there from the vice president. Another problem for Kamala today, she's going to have to figure out a way to wiggle out of that Joe Rogan podcast interview, because on the same day that we heard that Kamala was going to do a Fox interview, we also heard that Kamala's people were talking to Rogan's people. But after watching that debacle of an interview play out for 26 minutes last night, can you imagine Kamala doing an hour with Rogan, or 2 hours, or 3? I've listened to podcasts that he's done that have lasted more than 4 hours. There is no way Kamala could sit there and deflect questions for that long. Heck, I'm not even saying Rogan's that good. He is very good. But Forrest Gump could ask the questions in a format like that. And eventually Kamala would have to answer the question, or she would just start running. So the Kamala campaign is going to have to turn that one down, which is going to be very embarrassing, but also very typical. Donald Trump is having a very good week. And it's Thursday. We've got another couple days to go. Beacon Research. Nobody talks about Beacon Research unless you're a Democrat. They're a Democrat-leaning poll group. They have Donald Trump up by 2 points over Kamala today. And Polymarket. We talked about this last night. The site where people bet real money on who's going to win elections. They've now got Trump at 61% and Kamala's at 38%. That's where Joe was in July before they kicked him out of the Oval Office. And I think it's pretty clear. People are now catching on. We live in a country where the most prominent Kennedy alive just endorsed Donald Trump, and Dick Cheney just endorsed Kamala Harris. We now live in a country in the midst of what I think is probably the most profound political realignment of the last century. Working class Americans are now the constituency of the Republican Party. The difference between now and 2016 and 2020, the American people know Donald Trump completely. And it's not just Republicans, Black Americans, Hispanics, Jews, people that have never voted for Trump before are aware of his shortcomings. But they can also think, they can also compare what life was like when Trump was president to what life is like right now. And at the end of the day, people are always going to vote for what is better for them and what is better for their bottom line. And those numbers will likely continue to go up, because people are reminded on a daily basis how bad things are under Joe and Kamala. One more question. Madam Vice President, I'm just speaking for me personally. I've got 2 children. I'm married. Why is my grocery bill $100 more now than it was 2 years ago, 4 years ago? Why is it so much more expensive? Could you explain that?
Well, you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
That is darn right. You got to take responsibility for what happened during your administration, Kamala.
Rob Finnerty, host of Finnerty, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you've been looking for Rob on Wake Up America, maybe you thought he was on vacation, he now has his own show in case you hadn't heard. Finnerty, 8 o'clock Eastern, right between Rob Schmidt Tonight and Greg Kelly Reports. And by the way, for the Newsmax folks, if you're looking for a new person on Wake Up America, I'm available. A lot of people have no interest in waking up at 2:30 or 3 in the morning to do a morning show, but I did that in radio for many years. There is a lot of mixed reporting today concerning the DOJ, a story about the DOJ suing Virginia and other states over voter rolls. In fact, several stories have been deleted from multiple websites since early this morning. But the state of Florida is reversing the roll. Not the voter roll, but Florida is suing the Biden administration over what it claims is a refusal to verify immigration records so that the state can ensure the integrity of its voter rolls and prevent non-citizens from voting. So the weekend is upon us, my friend. Food, fun, football, maybe you're traveling tonight. A comet that only passes over Earth every 80 years, once in a lifetime essentially, is going to pass tonight. So be looking out for that. If you have a telescope, get it all ready. Kamala has an event in Grand Rapids, Michigan today, as I mentioned. Donald Trump has a rally in Detroit tonight. Think Ted Nugent, think Kid Rock. I don't know. It could be wild. And another rally tomorrow in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Speaking of wild, I'm not sure how I feel about this, only because he has been a loose cannon at times. But former NFL star Antonio Brown is going to be a guest speaker at tomorrow's rally in Pennsylvania. He played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and some other teams, but he's essentially a Steeler. That could be pretty wild. That's at 6 o'clock at the Arnold Palmer Regional Airport in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Wall Street opened the Friday session with the NASDAQ up more than 100 points and the Dow down almost 100 points. Gold, by the way, if you haven't been paying attention, up another $20 right now. Over $2,700 an ounce. Keep up with all of the news on Newsmax and at Newsmax.com today and all weekend long. Wake Up America Weekend Edition. Don't forget Saturday and Sunday beginning at 7. Saturday and Sunday Agenda, Saturday and Sunday Report. Hosts Rita Cosby, Lydia Serrani, Tom Basile, Nancy Brinker, The Gorker Reality Check on Sunday night, Trump's rallies, documentaries, and much more. Make sure you're signed up for Newsmax Plus. Go to NewsmaxPlus.com. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for checking out the Newsmax Daily. If you're a regular listener, I greatly appreciate that. Share it with your friends and family. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. It is available on just about every single platform there is. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Go Dolphins! And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is